Earlier in the week, the Cleveland Cavaliers pulled off the blockbuster trade to acquire Donovan Mitchell from the Utah Jazz, further strengthening the already competitive Eastern Conference. So in today's video, we're going to break down how this really affects the Raptors in their pursuit of improving on the 48 wins that got them the 5th seed last season. Let's get into it. What's going on, NBA Raptors fans? It's Jacob here, back with Amateur Sports for another Toronto Raptors YouTube video. On this channel, I bring you the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news, and I'm doing it all throughout the offseason. So if you like what you see from today's video, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and you can help me on the road to 12,000 subscribers. Also, if you find yourself enjoying this video along the way, be sure to drop a like to get that extra bit of support. We want to hit 250 likes on this video if we can. But let's get into our content for today. So what I want to do over the course of this video is break down maybe how Donovan Mitchell actually ended up on the Cleveland Cavaliers and not another team. I know you know the team that I'm going to talk about. And also, I want to discuss how this shifts the power balance in the Eastern Conference and why this is actually kind of a bigger problem than you think for the Raptors in their pursuit of besting, again, the great 48 wins that they got this season. But Donovan Mitchell to the Cleveland Cavaliers, how did we get here? Woj sent off an absolute bomb on Twitter when he revealed that this trade was happening and Utah had traded him to the Cleveland Cavaliers, because obviously all signs all throughout the offseason so far was that this guy was going to end up with the New York Knicks. I mean, the Knicks were trying to manifest it. Donovan Mitchell himself had been hinting at it. I mean, he had done everything other than say flat out that he wanted to go to the New York Knicks. The Knicks have kind of had this plan for years now, luring Donovan Mitchell away, Donovan Mitchell wanting to go there, and it seemed like he did actually want to go to the Knicks, but the Utah Jazz were just not happy with the sort of returns that they were getting. I mean, the New York Knicks, they knew what the Jazz wanted. The Jazz want to be bad this season. They want to tank and go after Victor Wembanyama. They want to go after Scoot Henderson, and they want picks. They want unprotected first-round picks for their assets, and they made that abundantly clear in the Rudy Gobert trade that sent him to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like, abundantly clear. It was 4 picks, plus it was the guy that they actually drafted, Minnesota, in the first round this year. It was essentially 5 first-round picks involving a trade around Rudy Gobert. So the Utah Jazz wanted a ton of draft assets from the New York Knicks, and the Knicks have control of, like, I think it's near 10 first-round picks. They can make them all unprotected. I'm not saying trade 10, but they had everything in place to make this happen. They are a rebuilding team, and this would have really helped them progress to the next level, maybe be a more solidified playoff position. New York Knicks fans wanted this to happen, but somehow, some way, they fumbled the bag. And here comes the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were a surprise package last season. They started the season exceptionally well. Injuries and maybe regressing to the mean a little bit kind of tanked them back into a spot where they weren't even in the playoffs in the end. After such a great start to the season, they were the 2 seed for a good amount of time at the start of the season. Chicago were like the 1 seed, Cleveland 2 seed. It was so strange. But Cleveland fell off, ultimately losing in the play-in tournament and not making the playoffs at all. But Garland was an all-star. Jarrett Allen was an all-star, albeit I believe he should not have made it over Pascal Siakam, and Siakam's All-NBA third-team appearance would suggest that is correct. Evan Mobley is there, and he almost won Rookie of the Year, but he didn't because Scottie Barnes won that because he was better than Evan Mobley last season. Nonetheless, I have my fun. Nonetheless, this is a very good Cleveland team, a very good and a very competitive Cleveland team. I always thought throughout the entire offseason that they were in the mix of teams like the Hawks, like Chicago, and I felt like the Raptors, many would consider they were in that tier with those 3 teams, Cleveland, Atlanta, Chicago, jostling for position here, because the top 4 in the East, a lot of people are saying that, top 2 is obviously, anybody who's saying would say the top 2 should be Milwaukee, Boston. Philly should be 3rd probably. Miami should be 4th. And the Raptors, in my estimation, were 5th. Then you had the teams like Chicago, Atlanta, Cleveland, as I mentioned. Possibly Brooklyn, keeping their assets. They're a good team on paper. We'll see how they perform, but that's another good team there. But I still felt like maybe the Raptors were that 5th seed. But this does change the power dynamic of the Eastern Conference a lot, because Donovan Mitchell is a very good player. And the Raptors maybe had some conversation with the Jazz about acquiring Donovan Mitchell. The fact of the matter is, players of this caliber are not available for trade very often, if at all. So teams really want to put in the assets to get that player into their team if they ever become available, because it's just so hard to get a player that good on your team. So the Raptors maybe had some interest, but the Jazz probably wanted a little bit too many picks. And looking at Donovan Mitchell, I mean, as great of a scorer as he is, he's not a good defender. And I said in a previous video about him when we talked about Donovan Mitchell, that I just don't think he's that guy that puts you over the top. Therefore, I wouldn't want to rinse so many assets bringing him in. I feel like we have time. We can be patient. We have a young core. We have Scottie Barnes. Let's take our time and hold what we have for the offseason as it comes to Donovan Mitchell. But the Cleveland Cavaliers were ready to make that leap. They get 3 years of Donovan Mitchell on contract, probably 2 guaranteed years where they can really try to make things happen alongside Garland, alongside Mobley and Jarrett Allen. It's a very good young core. It's arguably the best young core in the entire NBA. And the defense is a big problem for Donovan Mitchell, as I just said, especially when you pair him with a guard like Darius Garland. Small guard, maybe not that great of a defender, but there really aren't many backcourts that suit those two like Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, who are undoubtedly exceptional defenders. Very, very good defenders. Now, Scottie Barnes is also a great defender with the Raptors. The Raptors have great defense everywhere, but I just felt like it wasn't worth rinsing the assets to bring him in because it didn't put us over the top. It would have made us a better team, but it didn't put us over the top, and we had time to be patient. Well, Cleveland, this trade does not put them over the top, but it makes them better. I felt the Raptors were better than the Cavs, as I mentioned earlier, but after seeing this trade and seeing that the team that they are able to put out now, it's hard to really argue the Raptors are currently better than this Cleveland team. I mean, what a trade pulled off by the Cavs. The Jazz got the assets they wanted. They got the 3 unprotected first-round picks and 2 pick swaps. They control all of Cleveland's draft capital for the next 5 years. The Cavaliers, didn't really give anybody of significance. Colin Sexton was a player that they didn't really consider a player that was on their team. He was an RFA. He was injured last season. They did well without him. Like, they considered him as a player who wasn't really on their team. And Colin Sexton, by the way, was pretty close to accepting a qualifying offer. Ended up getting $72 million over the next 4 years, which I think is great value for Sexton. But the Cavs didn't really see him as one of their players. That's not really a loss of a player for them. The loss of a player comes in Lauri Markkanen, who isn't that much of a loss. I know he was kind of starting as the 3, which is very strange for a player of his size, but that's like a decent, average to decent player at best that they lose, and replace him with Donovan Mitchell and only have to give up Abaji, who they drafted 14th overall. Cleveland really, really made out like bandits with this trade, in my opinion. I wouldn't say it was a fleece, maybe. It was a great trade for Cleveland, though. They made their team better, and now we have to understand how they stack up against the Toronto Raptors. I've been saying that I feel like the Raptors can win 48, 49, 50 games. I have them in that range for this season, and they are still a very, very good team. But this trade, Cleveland are all of a sudden a team fully capable of winning 50 games. And I'd say this is a team capable of challenging Miami for that 4th position. Like, Miami got worse this offseason. They lost PJ Tucker. They didn't really bring anybody in. Jimmy Butler's getting older. That's a team that maybe could fall out of that 4th position as well. Maybe that's a team the Raptors could overlap as well and get past in the standings. But Cleveland are going to be in and amongst that. But Cleveland are also going to be in and amongst that mix as well. So the Raptors, in terms of getting the playoff position that they want to be a team that wins a playoff series this season. That has become a whole lot harder because comfortably, like, we have to be honest with ourselves, comfortably, Milwaukee, Boston, Philly are a better team. I think at this point, and I'm not trying to hate, like, just being honest, guys, Cleveland probably a better team. Miami have been considered a better team, though again, I think that's a team the Raptors could leapfrog in the standings. Brooklyn, getting KD and Kyrie to stay, they've made some good business moves in the offseason. Royce O'Neal's a good pickup. They've added in TJ Warren. We don't know what he's going to be like after the injury, but Ben Simmons is there. Seth Curry is there. Joe Harris is there. There's probably a name I'm forgetting as well. Like, that's a very, very good team as well. So there are a lot of good teams in the Eastern Conference. Atlanta got Dejounte Murray. Chicago are going to have players back from injury. This is a weird situation for the Raptors, who decided to hold what they have this offseason as so many other teams in the Eastern Conference started to strengthen. That is going to be a problem this season. I mean, we can still be that 4th or 5th seed, but it has become a whole lot harder, which might beg the question from fans, why didn't the Raptors make a trade this offseason? And the biggest answer to that question is because we didn't need to. Making a trade this offseason, going all out to get Kevin Durant, I mean, I've spoken so much about Kevin Durant. I did not want to trade for Kevin Durant if it involved Scottie Barnes or Pascal Siakam. And if we weren't going to include them, then we weren't going to get Kevin Durant. In fact, nobody got Kevin Durant. I didn't want to make that splash for Donovan Mitchell because it did not put us over the top for the amount of assets that you'd have to give up. You saw the value that Donovan Mitchell had. 3 firsts, 2 swaps, an okay player, and a decent value player in Colin Sexton. It would have probably been Gary Trent, another decent player for salary, along with 3 picks unprotected and 2 swaps. That's not a trade that I would have made because it did not put us over the top. The Raptors have time on their side. Scottie Barnes is like 20. Maybe he's 21 now. I don't know. He's 20 or 21. Super, super young. This is the guy that we are banking on for the future. Siakam, in his prime right now, sure. But I think he's going to remain in his prime for a few years. Same with Fred VanVleet. Gary Trent Jr. is improving. OG Anunoby, we're hoping he finds that next leap. Precious Achiuwa is improving. Nothing that we could have done this offseason put us over the top as contenders, but holding what we have, staying patient, and pivoting for the right move when necessary by maintaining all of our draft capital is the smart move by the Raptors. It could possibly sacrifice a couple of spots in the seeding in the Eastern Conference this season, but our plan is more long-term. Cleveland kind of looking more in the short term here. I feel like I get it's a young core, and even if Donovan Mitchell leaves at 2 years, maybe they feel like they trade him before his contract expires in 3 years if he doesn't want to stay there. They can do that. They can pivot well, but from a Raptors perspective, I really like the position that we are in. I think it has become inherently more difficult to be a higher seed in the Eastern Conference than we were last season as a result of this trade. That is a problem, but in the long-term plan to win a championship at some point in the next little while with this core that we have in place, the Raptors, nothing really changes. We don't need to panic. The Raptors are hard capped after signing Christian Coloco to that 3-year rookie scale contract. That's fine. There is no need to panic here. We're going to be okay. We could still be better than the Cavs this season. I think on paper they're a better team, but the way our team played last season, the way we can improve this season, the way Scottie Barnes can come out this season, we can still be better than the Cavs. So there's maybe a little bit of a problem for this season, but there is no crisis. We are going to be okay. We are still going to remain very competitive in the loaded Eastern Conference that we have right now. We're going to be fine. Still super excited for the future, but Cleveland really got themselves in the mix here. So how do you guys feel the Donovan Mitchell trade to the Cleveland Cavaliers really affects the Raptors? Do you agree with my sentiments? Do you have your own? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please, if you did enjoy, be sure to drop a like. It does go a long way to supporting the channel, and make sure you are subscribed to this channel for the greatest coverage and analysis on the latest Toronto Raptors news. Some big and exciting news for you guys. If you are a fan of amateur sports and or myself creating content, I have a huge announcement coming Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern time on my Twitter, my social media. The link is in the description for that. Huge news coming there. If you want to wait, you can. I'll also post in the community tab on this YouTube channel, and we'll discuss it in depth on my Twitch stream Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. I cannot wait to share this information with you guys. It's huge for the brand, it's huge for myself, and even more content for you guys to enjoy. We'll see you again next time for another video.